Please welcome to the stage Shazana Manji, Brent Spicer, Lee Seven, and Rian Beutler.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Shazana Manji and I'm Product Marketing Lead for Shopify Retail. I'm really excited to be joined here by a few of the partners I've had a chance to get to know who are building apps for retail and helping merchants change the way that they run their business and grow sales. Before we get started, we definitely want this to be a very interactive session with all of you. So I ask that if you have any questions, open up the Unite app, open the home menu, scroll down to social, and ask us a question in track number 1. Let's get started. Why don't we go through intros and tell everyone what you guys do for retail merchants and their store staff.
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Spice. I'm from a company called Marcello. So we've created a virtual marketing assistant for small retailers. So we take all the data out of point of sale and e-commerce and pump it through our algorithms. And then we do a suggestion to the retailer, say you should run this campaign to this cohort of customers. We think it's going to generate this return on investment. It's all built for you. Do you want to just send it?
Hi, I'm Lee Seven, co-founder of Endear. Endear is a clienteling app. So what we did is we created a platform for store associates so that they can use downtime at their locations to email and text with customers and continue to drive sales even when there is limited foot traffic.
Hi everyone, my name is Rian Beutler and I'm the co-founder and COO of Ventoff. We created Clocked In. It's a timekeeping solution for merchants. So it allows their team members to clock in and clock out, and then allows the merchants to export that time information into various payroll solution providers.
Great, so you can see that they all span a variety of different use cases for merchants in their stores. So let's start off with this. There's a ton of D2C brands that are digitally native that are flocking to open up retail locations. Why are they doing that when retail is supposed to be dying?
I should answer because I've got all birds on.
Yeah, it's
So it's not really the choice of the merchant how the consumer buys from them, it's the consumer's choice. And so actually I know Tim Brown, the founder of Allbirds, because he's a New Zealander as well. And like they had to open up physical stores because people wanted to come and touch stuff. And once you buy a pair of shoes online, it's always really scary that they're going to fit, but they get people into store. That's that experience of buying the Allbirds shoes, and then you can buy your next pair online from there. So we have a lot of vape stores as customers as well, and people want to go into the vape store to try the taste of the vape, but then they don't want to have to go back to store to buy the refill, so they want to be able to buy online as well. So there's a lot of people actually moving into this omni-channel space because the consumer's making them.
Yeah, I think Toby touched on this a little bit, but the other main issue is it's always about barriers to entry. And for a long time, the reason why digital was so attractive is companies like Shopify really lowered the barrier to entry to open up a store. But now what you see is that digital marketing competing for our Facebook attention, Instagram attention has become so much more expensive and so much more challenging. And so now it's actually gone the reverse. Now there are so many more opportunities to find short-term leasing, quick pop-ups, pop-ins, showrooms. You don't need that much space, and that industry has evolved so much, which is why physical retail has become the new way to really get in front of your customer.
There was a really great article the other day in Bloomberg about this kind of phenomenon, right? Because we have for so long been thinking, oh, retail is going away, and now, wait a second, now it's coming back. And they're linking it a lot to Gen Z and their buying habits, because Gen Z really wants to be in front of an experiential experience, like a pop-up, and they want to touch the things that they're looking online, like Allbirds. And they want to really be a part of the buying experience that extends just beyond their screen, because so much of their life is in front of the screen. They want some in-person, real-life interaction.
Yeah. And what role do you think that this community has to play for merchants that are trying to bridge the gap between online and physical retail to grow their business?
I think you sort of nailed it. It's in our power now that Shopify has provided the platform to really create that bridge and think about all the different opportunities that become so much more seamless for the customer when the same thing that you can do online, you can do in store and vice versa. And making sure that the customer can really design their own path to purchase in whatever way that they want.
A few years ago, Toby said on stage that Shopify partners we're taking the path, we're building the path to more entrepreneurs, into more entrepreneurship. So we need to go where the entrepreneurs are going. And whether that's online or in person or everywhere, that's where we need to be to better serve our merchants, because their success is ultimately our success. And it's our responsibility, I believe, and our company believes, that our merchant success is the most important component of developing for Shopify and for merchants. That's great.
Yeah, and we've got to support them to get there as well, right? So we need to be educated and building products and services that actually help them get there, because they're busy people and they want our support, and they want us to actually help them get there rather than just say, go do it.
Yeah. And you guys have all recently put in quite a bit of development resources and efforts behind go-to-marketing efforts to building on Shopify point of sale. Why now? And how did you evaluate the trade-offs between all the other priorities that you were working through?
So I'll go first because I already know. We've hung out at this point, so we're friends now. But we were an e-commerce first company, and we have 2 other apps, and we have 1 full stack developer and 1 front end developer, right? So the development hours are, as there are for many people in the room, a precious commodity. And last year on stage at Unite, we were told to invest time in retail and in point of sale, and we listened. And that's why we took the time, and we took time away from our other apps to build this app, is because we knew that's where Shopify was making a significant investment, and so we wanted to make that investment alongside Shopify.
So we actually started in point of sale. So what we're trying to build is stuff that's actually really easy to do online and take that to the physical world. And it's a much bigger space. Like, I shared some data with the guys, and although there's this talk about the retail apocalypse, there's still lots and lots of small stores opening, and those stores are growing. It's the big guys that are closing stores. It's the small boutique guys that are opening them. So we came from that background to provide services to them, and then a lot of those customers said, hey, I've got an online store as well, and 80% of them have Shopify stores. So we actually did the Shopify integration, e-commerce integration, and then Shopify pods came out and just made it all so much easier. And so Shopify asked us, and so if you do that, you get to get presented on stage by Arfon on the main talk, which is nice.
We were not at Shopify Unite, so we really, I guess, took a bigger risk. But we really focused on the fact that we were going where they weren't, and we were addressing a white space. You know, there's been so much tech that went into e-com in the past 10 years or so, and everyone, as you said, right, forgot about the store. It was not important. It was going to go away. And so when we saw this sort of resurgence, we went into, I actually walked, if you know New York, I walked up and down Madison Avenue talking to store associates about how they interacted with customers, and they all pulled out their notebooks and their binders. And I was like, this just can't be the way that a digitally native brand is going to outfit their stores. It can't be. So we really wanted to change that analog experience and make it much more data-driven and, you know, much more efficient.
I think the other reason for doing it with Shopify as well is that so point of sale's been around forever, and it's pretty clunky, and then some people came out and invented cloud-based point of sale. And those guys have been around for a long time and got 10, 20,000 customers. Shopify have been doing this for a few years and have 100,000 customers already. So if you're going to do one point of sale integration, you've got to do Shopify first.
That's great. And I'd love to kind of bounce on this thread that you just said in terms of how you guys discovered the opportunity of what you guys were going to build. Tell us a little bit about that journey on how you really discovered the merchant challenge and then made that bet on like, this is a problem that we're going to solve and dedicate time towards.
Yeah, so since I sort of started on that, it was really about, I think Spice, you mentioned this too, replicating what we had seen be really successful online and ask ourselves how that can translate into a store. Because the other thing is stores, you know, they are innovating and they're growing, but from what we've seen, they're still largely not busy most of the time. They're actually idle for about 40% of their operating hours. And so if you can take that same attitude that people have about e-com and bring it into the store, you're going to rely on a resource that everyone needs to have anyway, which is the store associate, and really leverage them to be your local ambassadors.
I brought some of my own personal experience into it. My background was in retail. I worked in retail in undergrad. I worked anywhere from the Gap to a boutique, and then I worked in high-end retail, and then I worked in retail banking. And in 3 of those roles, I was in a leadership position where I handled scheduling and payroll and back office, and it was a nightmare, even at a bank where you would think would be maybe a little bit more sophisticated than a boutique that 8 people work at. It was still relatively paper-driven, like you were mentioning. And when we were looking for white space, we're thinking, there has to be a better way for team members to do this. We can't just accept this as the status quo. And as an operational person myself, thinking about managing a bunch of paper all of the time, that's stressful. I'd rather have it on a clean Excel spreadsheet any day of the week.
We actually started solving the wrong problem, we discovered about a year and a half ago. So what we thought the issue was that all these small retailers don't have access to these marketing tools that big guys have. So we built these marketing tools, and people signed up and started using them, but then stopped. And so our ongoing usability was really poor. And so we looked at our data, went back and spoke to a bunch of customers, and they love the tools, but they're busy and they're not marketing experts. So what they really wanted is for us to actually do the marketing for them. So that's when we implemented AI and machine learning to actually solve the problem of, I'm not a marketing expert, can you take my data and do whatever you need to with it? So now we're kind of generating, we can prove that we're generating a 13x return on investment for these guys, and they're going, cool, just keep on doing it.
Are you building for all merchants, some merchants? How do you guys think about really defining your audience and the problem that you're going to try to solve for them?
We as a company, we build for everybody. We don't care what size you are. We think that the tools for success should be accessible to anybody, no matter the scale. That's what's so awesome about Shopify, is it's lowered the barrier of entry. So whether you are selling cookies to 30 people a month, or if you're selling $20 million online and in person a year, we want to meet that need. And we want to be able to scale infinitely to meet those needs. That's our vision.
Yeah, I think for us, the reality is our target user is a store associate. So brick and mortar POS is basically a critical part of our product, but more importantly, I think where we really add value is being able to manage that large and hopefully growing labor force in a really efficient way. So when we think about who we're a great fit for, that really has to come into play, is that your pain point is that it's not just you anymore. You have a team and you want to make sure that your customers are being treated right, want to make sure that you're speaking to them on a regular basis, and you can oversee that relationship as a founder and as a retailer.
So we build for everybody as well, but we've actually just discovered recently, so we've just hired our first salespeople. So our core kind of target market is omni-channel, so you got 2 to 5 stores, you've got an e-commerce store, you're doing $2.5 million GMV. But we found with our solution now that we still have a lot of really small single store customers coming in, but those guys pay a lower ARPU, but they also self-fulfill. So like 75% of our customers are actually never talking to a salesperson. They're just onboarding themselves and going through to paying. So the bigger ones we talk to, the smaller ones, they just do it themselves.
Got you. And what do you see as the untapped opportunity for the folks in this room? What are ideas around where they should be building and how to find that nugget?
This is where I was going to say a
Yeah,
CRM for store associates and a time clock. But
And if you're into loyalty, I highly recommend the loyalty space.
I think what you should do is, and this might sound kind of trite, but actually go out. And something I love to do is I go out in LA and I go to pop-ups and I go to boutiques and I see how they're operating and think if you're coming from e-commerce, which is what we did, think what can we build, or is it can this be an extended functionality of what we've already built that can be used in store, or B, is there something that we can build and we're seeing this really glaring white space, And I feel like the more times you actually put yourself into those physical experiences, because honestly, for a long time, I was just shopping online because that's what we did, right? We sold for e-commerce. I only shopped online because I was selling for e-commerce. And then I kind of, to be frank, as my daughter got older and she wanted to go shopping, all of a sudden now I'm in, pop-ups and having experiential moments. And it's in those moments when you really think, oh, there's an opportunity here. My app that I've already built is going to fill this, or there's something that I can fill and I can build for.
I think what we've seen also with store technology is it can be so broad or so deep. Like one of my favorite examples is, Reformation's entire fitting room experience. And that was such a problem that we all just accepted. And then they were like, no, but this is so broken. People are waiting on lines. They can't go back and try later. They can't view our entire inventory because it's not all on the floor. So I think one of the biggest things is not just going in and looking, but then also asking yourself, am I the one to solve this problem? And that's also really where the complementary sort of skill set, does it match with what I do online, and can I make that an extension of how I've already proven myself as a valuable app or partner or agency, and how do I bring that to the store? Because the other way that merchants are really going to benefit is if they have that omni-channel partner that's guiding that same pain point or that same opportunity, both in store and online.
I think you look for those opportunities that people can do online easily today, and can that be done in the physical world? So we're always trying to do things that we know that we can do in the Shopify e-commerce store, and how do we bring that to a physical environment? So one of the ones that I'm dying to crack is abandoned carts. So what's an abandoned cart in a physical store? But there's people out there that have developed apps that work really well online, and can you actually flip that on its head and make it work in store as well? Because these are the guys that are crying out for those sort of solutions, guys who are physical.
We solved that problem, in case you were wondering.
Exactly.
Yeah, conversion rates for a retail store hover somewhere between 10 to 15%, and that's actually considered really great.
Yeah.
So there is definitely so much more opportunity in there to help with conversion. And on that note, we had this really great conversation the other day at dinner, and Brett, Spice, you said something that merchants really just care about two things: make me money or save me time. Tell us a little bit about how you've developed your marketing positioning for your apps, and what they do for merchants, and how you get their attention.
So for us, we kind of tell a story, and we do this when we're pitching for investment as well, that the small retailers, they get phone calls from Yelp saying, hey, you've got this page and it's shit, everyone hates you, pay me some money and we can make it better. Or they've got Groupon knocking on the door and saying, hey, actually if you run this campaign, you only have to give 50% discount and then give 50% of what's left to us, and then you have a whole bunch of people spouting that they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. So for us, it's all around, you don't need to worry about taking those calls from those guys anymore. What you want to do is make more money as a small retailer, and we can help you do that, and we've proven it. Here's the case study showing that we generate a 13 times ROI. So forget about all that stuff. So it's a pretty easy sell, really. People go, oh, don't have to talk to those Yelp wankers anymore.
I would completely agree. We lead.
So we hire Yelp staff to work for us as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, please. So our big thing is 18% increase in sales. It's sales at the end of the day. And I think the other thing that we've noticed, though, is it's not just telling you up front in the sales process that we're going to do that for you. It's reminding you over and over again, here's why you pay this subscription every month, because here's how your store associates are driving sales for your store and for your website. Here's how your ROI is converting. Here's how much more you're speaking to customers. Here's how much more their lifetime value is to you and your brand. And reminding them of that and showing them exactly how, I think, is a huge part of any successful app.
How do you tell them that?
Which part? Which one?
That things have been successful, because they're notoriously bad at opening emails, right? So you can't just fire them a report. And they go, oh, look at that, because you know they won't open it. Are you calling them, or are you...
The customers or the owners?
Sorry.
No,
Please
do it.
Please do, yeah.
I'm happy to share how we do
Yeah,
this. Tell
take
me.
over. Yeah, it's great.
Would you like to? So so how are we measuring the ROI?
No, how are you telling the retailer that that your sales associates using Endear have now generated this much more money?
There's an insight section of our app, and then we also send basically a weekly pulse.
Yep.
So the idea is the way we're able to do that, and I think one of the biggest value adds of Endear as a product is that for the first time, store associates can receive commission and drive sales online, and that can be attributed back to them and to their location. And the cool way that we're doing that is it's not even through a click-through, it's because they're sending a message through Endear, and we're able, thanks to Shopify, to track that entire customer journey and say, yeah, they came into your store, you sent them a text, and they actually then went online and purchased all this other stuff, and we know exactly the time frame, and so being able to reward associates for participating in the larger ecosystem of a brand has been one of the coolest parts.
For us, it's literally in the App Store. There's like your app and the name, and then your byline. It says save time. Like that is we come out swinging on that. And the reason why is because as someone who has run payroll for years, and managed multiple people, you can really get stuck in the weeds. And the last thing you want to do when you're trying to manage back office is spend 5 to 10 hours a week or every other week running payroll. It's just a nightmare. And managing time off and managing when people are clocking in and clocking out. And so we tell them up front, you save time. But additionally, you're saving money because now you're not having to pay an accountant to do it, or you're not having to pay for another team member to do it, because you can just do it really quickly and really succinctly, and we just lay it on the table straight up. We're like, here you go, here, save some time, use our app, make some money, because what is time? When you're an entrepreneur, what is time? Time is money, so an opportunity cost. Every minute we spend is $1 we're wasting.
I think those are the two key things, and you've just got to communicate that though, right? So like before we pivoted, we were saying, hey, we build marketing apps, and people are going, who gives a shit?
They're
But
cool.
now we're going, hey, we make you more money. And now they're going, yeah, well, that's what I wanted. I don't give a crap about your apps. I just want to make more money.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I actually think, like, as a marketer who's been working with some of these partners, like, you guys have made it so tremendously easy to be able to communicate that value in the form of, like, saving time, making money, and, like, actually also developing some merchant case studies and stories, and to start, like, building out that narrative. Tell us about how you identify some of those partners that you want to build case studies with, and how you go about doing that.
Sure. So for us, we are very, very close with a lot of the merchants that we work with, and usually they come to us with a sort of glaring pain point. It's not just, I want to launch a clienteling program. It's, we really want to accomplish this thing, and can you help us do that? So, for example, we work with a partner in New York called Totokayo. They're a multi-brand retailer. They have a store in New York and a store in Seattle, and they saw the perks of their stores because when customers come in, they have higher AOV, lower return rates. And so for them, their big question was, how can we better utilize our store sales team to connect with online customers and make sure they're getting the same level of treatment that our in-store customers are getting? And so that was a really sort of beautiful, isolated opportunity to say, well, why isn't every store doing this? You have these associates who are working so many hours with no one to actually speak to. That's a great opportunity to connect with your online audience. So it was really helpful to sort of work with them through that problem and really hone in on how we could fix it.
Okay. I don't know how this is going to sound, but I'm going to say it anyways. We have a team of 5, and we have over 20,000 active merchants who use our 3 apps. We don't have time to do case studies right now. However, I think we should. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that, one human can only do so many things. And right now, our whole company's full of unicorns, which is amazing because we all do a lot of different things. And one of those things is not case studies. So.
Well, one of the pieces I've actually found really helpful and useful was even like the App Store reviews, and even like capturing some of those sound bites. Like, they've been really great, and pulling that through into some of the content that's created.
Yeah, like we have one of those that's gone, can't believe it, these guys earned me 13 times how much I paid them last month. So yeah, for us it's kind of finding the ones that you really surprise and delight, and the ones that go, holy shit, did you really do that? And then trying to box them out, and they have to be sexy brands and stuff as well, but and willing to comment. But yeah, the ones that you've kind of overachieved what they expected you to achieve.
Yep.
They're the ones we like.
When you just talked about the fact that limited resources, tight bandwidth, you guys got to be really careful about the decisions that you're making.
Yes.
You took the leap, build a new app that's completely outside of the box of what you guys have done before on the point of sale. Tell us about how you think about investing that time in terms of roadmap and like defining a problem that's big enough that merchants will care, and then when to make that decision to continue to build the app.
That's a great question. We have some things on our roadmap that we're waiting to hit benchmarks for. And that's what we've done in the past with our other apps is, okay, when we hit this many users, we're going to now invest 50, 100, 150 hours of dev time into this. But until, and another thing we should add is we're a bootstrap company. And I mean, truly bootstrapped, no debt, no VC, nothing. So like when we're making choices, they have to be like really strategic and really hyper-focused, because I feel like the room for, not saying that if you don't, we all make mistakes because we're entrepreneurs, right? It's like part of the gig, like you're like 3 months into a project and you're like, that was a bad choice. But that's what we do, is we volley between our 3 apps, and every quarter we go onto the whiteboard and we're like, what are we working on this quarter? And we go and we rank order it. But my business partner likes to say every day is a hackathon at Ventov. And I'd like to think that's true, because there are moments, are there solopreneurs in here? Yeah, okay. There are moments when you're like, I have my whole next 3 weeks planned out, and then something catches on fire and you're like, just kidding, this is actually what I'm doing. So that's how we allocate our resources. It's more strategic than that, but that's kind of the high-level overview. We get together, highest ROI, what's the maximum impact, how many dev hours is this going to cost us? Can we then support it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to hire a biz dev person right now, because then I have to hire 3 more support team members to support that. So it's like being really strategic about every action that we take.
Yeah, that's great. I hope you guys are all getting into the app, asking a bunch of questions. So I'm going to ask to open that up. Yeah. Perfect. All right, this is a good one. Is there a capability or feature that you wish the Shopify platform had that you could use in your app that it doesn't have yet? So an API, something you were talking about, yeah. They're
So we
toggling between talking about their roadmap, and I
We
see
think
the wheels turning.
That tokenization of the payment card through Shopify Pay is a big opportunity. It's really hard to identify customers sometimes in point of sale, because you've got to get the staff to do it, and the staff are too embarrassed to ask the question about what's your name and put a sale against them. And tokenization just takes that whole thing away. So if you don't know what tokenization just means, you securely take the details of the credit card and lock it away in a vault and bring a token back. And that token then becomes the unique identifier for that customer. So then every time they pay in any Shopify store, in any store that's using Shopify Pay, you know exactly who that customer is. So, yeah, we'd love that, please.
Yeah.
We had a lot of our asks for Shopify as a platform answered at this Unite. We had a lot of, this is our 4th year, so we've seen some really cool announcements through the years. And this year, up on the main stage, I was like, yes, all right, because we consult part of bootstrapping. We consulted and built stores to bootstrap what we did. And so we had some challenges that were never really addressed back then in the olden days, and now we're really pumped.
Yeah, I think for us, hearing all the announcements yesterday was really about just the fact that there's such a focus on creating the opportunity for us to seize on with our roadmap and our features. So as long as that keeps happening, and it seems like there's just more and more of an opportunity to grow and really connect the in-store and online experience, that's really where we want to, lay our groundwork.
So who was the Shopify person that asked that question? Trying to get feedback.
Another one is, how do you handle apps with identical functionality, but with a lower price point.
Discount.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Have they duplicated our features?
Yeah, they have really close functionality and their price points a little cheaper.
We'd tell the customer we're so far ahead of the market, no one's like us.
Yeah.
And hope they believe it.
I mean, I feel like if there's an app that duplicates yours, and you can go in and look at their code, and like it's like they really stole your stuff, that you should be aggressive with protecting your IP. I gave a lightning talk at United about this last year. I don't think that's what the question is. You know what? If you build a superior product and if you give superior service, you demand a superior price. That's if you just outperform everybody else, you can ask for whatever market price you want.
I'll chime in on that answer too, and that is like the example is like with loyalty, like which is one of the ways that you help to collect the data. By extending that functionality of your app into the point of sale actually help to differentiate you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like there's always something else or something new in Shopify that's released that like capturing that momentum and opportunity can help to differentiate. How do you go about designing for retail merchant workflows? How did it differ for building for online merchants?
So we never really built for online merchants, but what we learned quickly was that there's like, what was really cool is there were already these workflows in place, and it was about making those workflows built into Endear and making them really easy to execute at a more rapid pace. And so that was the really cool thing about taking something that was so analog and transitioning it into something digital, because the behavior was there. And in fact, they were doing a lot of the things on their own, because every store associate is like the ultimate hustler, and we just had to say, we're going to make your lives easier, and we're going to make sure that you don't actually have to change what you're used to doing. We're just going to replicate that with buttons and clicks rather than having to manually record things.
This is not a scalable answer, but like I said earlier, we have a team full of unicorns, and our front-end developer is also a designer and also has retail experience. So we kind of got lucky, right? We struck the jackpot, because then we had a group of people who understood the need, and then we had my business partner is our developer and was able to execute that vision, and we worked collaboratively. I think when you have a really great team and you're really open and honest, and sometimes that means like being a little frustrated with each other, because that's how teams work, right? You're like, no, why don't you get it? That's okay. And that's how we did it.
I think the workflows are actually really different online and in-store, and on purpose as well, though, right? Because that's the way that the consumer wants to buy. So you've actually got to build solutions that blend the different workflows together.
Yep.
And the workflows can differ by retailer as well, depending on what technology they've got, what sort of product they're selling, what their average sale price is. So it's not building one or the other, it's building both of them, but they both have to work together so that one consumer can buy online one day and in-store the next day.
I will also add that Polaris has made it really easy to make things beautiful and user-friendly. And everything we build is embedded in its Polaris, and that helps because then it's an easier workflow for the merchant and in their experience, because they don't have to relearn a system. They just use the system they already have, and just it looks like an extension of what they have already built. So that's something we play on very hard, is what we've been given by Shopify.
Very cool. Any clever ideas on how to get more app installs?
Go to the Shopify App Store and pay for advertising on there, hopefully. Hopefully that'll work and not be too expensive. I've had a couple of conversations since I've been here, and we've had a conversation as well around working together with non-competitive parties and potentially cross-promoting. So we are looking at having an apps and integrations page in Marcelo where we can put, Lee's app, so Endear, for people who are of a certain size and want to manage those customers, and then hopefully she'll do it back for us. So that's something that we're actually just thinking about doing at the moment. We haven't done it yet, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think sort of extending that more across the entire ecosystem. I think that there are some scrappy ways, and there was a talk on this, like getting into the forums and solving people's problems and really giving back to merchants before you really are asking them to give anything to you. So I think that's a really interesting strategy. We definitely also look outside of just the App Store, and that's creating content that solves people's problems and making sure that everyone is aware of the pain point that you're solving with a blog. But I think also at the same time, we're not always going to be the ones. You're not going to just rely on my word that our product is great. You want other people validating it, and I think that's really where working with agencies as a software and a tech tool can come in handy.
They really talked about it already, but content strategy always, right? You need to get found on Google. You have to show up, and whether that's in the app when they Google a solution, whether that's the App Store first and then your app, or vice versa, you need to show up in Google. So you need to have a really strong content and SEO strategy. Teaming up with people is great. When Josh founded Ventov, and I'm pointing at him because that's him, and he worked a lot in the forums, and that was really beneficial, like you said, because people then grew to trust that we actually had an authority in the space. Like, we didn't just build an app to make money. We actually understood the product and the need that we were solving. So I think that's really good to say, oh, it's not just an app we're selling. Like, we're also selling this knowledge with it, and also having a really excellent knowledge management tool that you extend to the people who use your app is crucial, that is easily searchable, that people can just find. So before they even install your app, they're like, oh, I already know how this is going to work. If I have questions, I can go here, and you really surface that out the gates, I think is important.
But the other thing is actually having a really good relationship with Shopify. And
Yes.
kind of going over and above when you're asked to, so that you kind of get good positioning, and Shopify will work back on your behalf if you do that as well. So there's no quick thing where you can just go, wow, I can just get 1,000 installs overnight by doing this. Unfortunately, it's a whole bunch of things. It's running a business, right?
Yeah, it's baby steps.
Marathon. Yep, marathon.
Yeah, I think the part that's been interesting is even in those particular use cases around time tracking or clienteling, there's a lot of greenfield out there. So it's not like you can be the first person to the party to really try to capture market share and grow by solving a unique problem in retail that others might not be doing it. And we'll get one more question in. How do you handle support and pricing for larger merchants?
We flat price. Okay, next. We flat price, and when we have a support team, we offer support from 6 a.m. Pacific time, so that's 9 a.m. Eastern time, to 9 p.m. Pacific. Does that make sense? Yeah, 9 to 9. We're working on global coverage at the moment. We will have it.
So we have a cutoff where you have to ask for enterprise pricing. So if you've got more than 30,000 people on your database and more than 7 stores, then it comes to me. And I have a conversation with the customer and make sure they're worthwhile acquiring and they're not going to lose us money. And then I just basically custom price on a case-by-case basis. And case studyability as well. I've just signed up the Rugby World Cup official online store, so they got a massive discount. So that
Casual.
we can,
Yeah.
'cause it's
Not a big
rugby.
deal at all.
And for support, so we actually, we use people contractors around the world through Upwork. So we have people in London, Toronto, Sydney, Melbourne, New Zealand, to try and cover the time zone. So they're working between 20 and 30 hours a week. And Upwork's just so easy to manage the payments, payroll, and all that stuff for them as well.
We have the same on the pricing front. It goes to enterprise, and we sort of take it as it comes and price it accordingly. But on the support side, we'll basically try to support you 24/7. We have a small team, and we're all really eager that, as I was joking last night, we're thrilled you want your problem fixed. So we will try to fix it as quickly as possible. Sometimes that means 1 a.m., sometimes it doesn't, but we really are pretty much all the time active on there.
All right, great. I know we're coming up on time. All the panelists will be here at the back, so if you have any additional questions, definitely grab some time. And I'll encourage everyone downstairs where the lunch and snacks are, there's a retail demo area, and we have a ton of folks from our product teams that are there that are really excited to talk to all of you. So look forward to seeing your faces there as well. Thank you.
Thank you.